Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
White people in Egypt!
White people in Egypt!
Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched Death on the Nile.
Death on Senil.
Starring Mustache.
The romance of the desert has the power to seduce. I ask you, have you ever loved so much? Been so possessed by jealousy that you might kill.
Yeah, starring just a prodigious mustache.
Yeah. There's a whole mustache subplot.
There is.
We get the origin of the mustache.
We get the gritty origin story of Poirot's mustache, and I loved it.
Can I tell you a theater story?
Yeah.
So I didn't do this on purpose. I chose the earliest time that this theater had, which happened to be fucking 2:00, but it also happened to be the 70 millimeter showing. And I thought like, oh, that's kind of fun. 70 millimeter. So going to see this on the Super Bowl, 70 millimeter theater, just filled with nerds, film nerds.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. So
this is a weird film for people to pile out, film nerds to pile out in droves to go see.
I don't mean filled. I mean just the only people there are film nerds.
Okay,
they're
gotcha.
seeing it this at 70 millimeter. And first of all, why this film? You don't need to see this film at 70 millimeter.
Why this one?
This isn't Casablanca. I guess maybe I assume it was shot on film if they're offering this. The theater starts playing 10 minutes late. No trailers, which was pleasant, but without any sound. And it played for 15 minutes without sound. People said something. The beginning is subtitled, so at first people were like, "Is this a choice? Like, what's going on here?"
Right, it's subtitled and it's in black and white in the beginning.
Yeah. And then they stop the film and they come in and they're like, "So we don't know how to use the projector." Which is that's funny in itself because they're trying to be like fancy ArcLight with their 70 millimeter showing, but like they don't know how to use this because everything's
literally don't know how to use the projector.
Yeah, so they couldn't get the sound, so they just switched to digital, which is even funnier because then all the film nerds walked out. Yeah, because everyone was like, "I paid to see 70 millimeter." Yeah. It's like, calm down,
I wanted
everybody.
To see the film.
Yeah,
it's like,
so
okay.
It was all the funniest things that could happen with a 70 millimeter showing.
For Death on the Nile, too.
Yeah. I sat there. I didn't even like.
It's not like they were showing Metropolis or something.
Exactly. Other people had already complained, but it was like, it's the type of movie, and this isn't a hit against the movie, but like, if I lost the sound in the first 20 minutes, I would have been like, that's fine. Like, I wouldn't have cared, but they started it over again, and then I watched it, the movie that you watched.
Okay. That was a journey.
Yeah. So how did you like Death on the Nile?
I liked it.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. It was a perfectly fun, old-fashioned murder mystery. It's even shot kind of old-fashioned. You know, Kenneth Branagh directed it as well, so I guess he was leaning into that.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the Orient Express. I didn't like Orient Express I liked this movie a little bit better. There was something
interesting.
There's something about Orient Express, and I don't necessarily want to spoil that movie, so I won't get into specifics. But the solution to Orient Express was kind of a letdown for me.
Okay, so should we issue spoilers for that movie too? Because I do want to talk about that compared to this. Because yes, I guess Orient Express, without being spoilery, is not your traditional ending to a murder mystery. Whereas
Correct.
this is.
And
we're going to spoil this movie for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't see it coming, but for another weird reason is I thought I had this movie spoiled for me. I read a tweet that I now do not understand what the tweet meant.
Okay.
No, but someone tweeted something that heavily implied that Gal Gadot's character faked her death. And that's not what happens.
No, it sure isn't.
So I was genuinely surprised because here's the weird thing is everything leading up to the conclusion implies that. Or at least in part, the part where she's like, "Where's my red paint?" And I was like, "Oh, fake blood."
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. I think that's
that's not the ending.
No,
Spoilers.
It's a potential red herring for sure.
Yeah, I just thought, considering the ending of Orient Express, basically having an ending where nobody is the killer, I would have been like, "Oh, I see what you're doing. That's neat." But
yeah. And Agatha Christie stories will regularly have a solution that is not traditional or not typical. Like I'm also thinking of And Then There Were None, which has been adapted a bunch of times, and the solution to that is a little bit unusual.
Right. Well, this one is very interesting because we might as well just talk about it now. The people who the done it, the who and the who done it is the most obvious.
Yeah.
But they take you through this ride early on where you don't think about them anymore.
Right, they do,
because it's like it's so obvious that you're like, well, it wouldn't be them,
right?
For this, yeah.
But the movie does something very smart, which obviously is present in the original story as well, where the two, like you're saying, the people who did it are very obvious, but something happens, like they give themselves a pretty strong alibi straight out of the gate.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's you spend the rest of the movie not thinking about them, and then every other suspect on the boat has a perfectly logical alibi. I mean, not alibi, motive. Like a perfect.
Right.
You could totally see every single person on the boat being the killer.
To be honest, I was a little disappointed only because the explanation when he starts going through it seemed silly, and I was like, "Oh, this is like the fake out. Like he's going to be wrong," and then it just is that, and I don't know. I thought that was interesting. I did like this movie, but on the mystery angle, I also thought that like they're almost like the red paint thing. There's a lot of moments like that really scream at you. Like the clues aren't subtle.
No.
They don't give you too many like dead ends.
There's a lot of most of the red herrings come in the form of the different interviews he does. Like once the murder happens, Gal Gadot gets shot right through the head while she's a snoozing. And so the next chunk of the movie is just Poirot interviewing every character one by one. And that's where like most of the red herrings and clues come from. There's only like 3 clues in the movie, and they are like loudly announced. Like you said, it's like, my red paint is gone. And then another character will be like, my scarf is missing.
Right. And it's like, boy, I think that red paint and scarf are going to have something to do with this.
I feel like they're going to matter. Yeah.
The only thing that I did, because again, assuming that I had the movie spoiled, when she mentions her pills, I thought that was part of how she would have faked her death, which is like, oh yeah, you knock yourself out with the pills, so you seem dead, and maybe Russell Brand was in on it.
Yeah.
But it turns out Russell Brand doesn't really need to be in this movie.
He's just another suspect.
Yeah. He's almost a red herring, because like, I guess they're all famous, but he like stood out.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you get fucking Russell Brand for this? And he like he like just kind of floats through the movie, and then
Well,
like it's nothing against him. It's just the role is actually like
that's sort of everybody, right? Because
that's true.
Because one of the ladies is Annette Bening. You got Jennifer Saunders in there,
right? But Annette Bening does have stuff to do.
She's got a much bigger role. That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, like he's I don't know, like what should we do? Should we go through the plot? What should we talk about?
Let's go through the plot. I mean, some people don't care and are listening to this knowing that's going to be spoiled for them.
Yeah.
So it begins with it's the origin of the mustache.
Yeah, the gritty origin, the crime alley of his mustache.
Yeah, he's doing a war. Mm-hmm. He's all young.
He's all up in that war, man.
Yeah, and he detects something.
He's sliding and slopping around in the trenches like a seal.
Yeah. So this was the part that had no sound.
Yeah.
And it was very funny to me when watching it with sound. I was like, oh, that's what they were talking about? Because they go to war. He does something to help the army advance, and they like win. They gain a bridge. And then his dipshit, like sergeant,
his captain,
who's a dipshit,
because he screams "Mon Capitan" right as the captain trips a bomb that blows him right the fuck up, and the whole bridge up, rips half of Poirot's face off. So now he's got to grow a mustache.
Right, that's the scene. The scene I saw without sound was the woman talking to him. Who we learn is like
his fiance. That conversation is pretty important because the whole. Like, the theme of the movie is...
Oh, no, I mean, I saw it with sound the second time.
Okay.
I'm saying the first... When they stopped the movie, because of the no sound, they rewound it and they played it from the start. It was just very funny because she says something to him and then it cuts to death on the Nile. And I was like, I bet what she said is really important. And then I learned it's her saying, you should grow a mustache. And I was like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, she also tells him, because he's like... He tells her to fuck off, basically. He's like, you don't want to stay married to me. I look like Harvey Two-Face. And then she explains to him that what love is, or like what love means to her. And like kind of the whole movie is about love, right? Like every single character's motive is directly tied to some form, expression of love, whether it's positive or negative. Like the whole movie's about that.
And this is... I think the first one was like this too, but this is very important. The movie is about him.
Yeah.
So very smartly, they give him like an arc.
Yeah.
A mustache arc.
A mustache arc.
The mustache represents more than just a mustache.
Yes.
But it is about him being this like widower who's just like buried in his work, and the idea of like maybe he should move on. And at the end he does.
Yeah.
But
as represented by his mustache.
Yes, exactly.
It's a mustache arc. It's very elegant.
It's a mustache arc. Yeah, we get the origin of the mustache. And it was very funny at first because I was like, I hope that doesn't have anything to do with anything. And it's just, how do you get his mustache? But anyway.
Yeah, we're being a little bit reductive about it, but it actually does like matter. It's like his whole character in the movie.
No, they wouldn't put a scene in that without it meaning something.
I mean, they might.
To me.
Kenneth Branagh did put a scene where Josh Gad eats dirt and shits it out of his ass.
Here's the thing about Kenneth Branagh, though. Sometimes he cares, sometimes he doesn't.
That's true.
And that's the thing, is this in the first one, it's like he clearly cares.
Yeah.
This is like his jam.
Yeah.
So like I had a feeling like from the start, this is going to be a competent film.
Mm-hmm.
And it was.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It is a well-made whodunit.
Yeah. So he's at a jazz club years later.
Yeah, he is.
He's channeling all of us by eating desserts in a jazz club and keeping to himself.
Yep. Sitting at a table in the corner by himself, just eating dessert.
Yep. And just by what feels like coincidence, it's more complicated than that, at least. But he witnesses the start of this murder plot by seeing this woman who is the friend of Gal Gadot, who is rich and famous. Gal Gadot is meeting her at the club and being like, I want you to meet my fiance. We're in love. Why don't you go dance with him? Which I was like, don't do that.
Yeah, that's weird. That's a weird thing to do.
And so they dance on the dance floor, and they instantly clearly want to fuck. And then we cut to old Armand Armie Hammer, and the first lady, Jackie, who the actress I actually didn't recognize. I think she's on Sex Education. Yeah, she's good.
Yeah, she's really good. But they were also fuck dancing. There's a lot of fuck dancing.
Oh, their fuck dancing is intense.
Yeah.
But it's just like
the most intense fuck dancing I've ever seen. To the point where, like, when he gets out on the dance floor with Gal Gadot and they're also kind of fuck dancing, but not as much as he was with the other lady, it's like, well, and I guess that's foreshadowing.
It's foreshadowing. It's just like if you fuck dance with this guy and then you're like, here's my friend, Gal Gadot. Why don't you two go fuck dance as well? It's like you're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
So they also, they lightly fuck dance.
Yeah.
And then it's just like hard cut. Gal Gadot and Armie Hammer are getting married.
Yep.
And this other lady who is like, I love this man, I'm introducing you to him, is nowhere in sight. And it's like, well, shit.
I bet that didn't go well.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Now, isn't it?
I like that the first thing Jackie says to Gal Gadot, which is like, oh, I'm so excited. I met this dude like a couple of weeks ago, I think. We're going to get married. He's unemployed. He has no prospects, so I want you to give him a job.
Yeah.
Just right out of the gate, you're like, oh, he's a scumbag. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. But
they do this thing where, and they did it with the first one, where the person getting murdered, it's
kind of sucks.
Yes, they're not condoning murder, but it's sort of that idea of, in a murder mystery, you need a lot of people who want to kill the victim.
Yeah, so
the
have
victim
to be
has to be a shit,
right? And they have to be like unusually shitty, like atypically shitty, like shitty outside the norm, so that a room full of 7 or 8 people would have a logical reason to murder them.
Right. So they're honeymooning now on the Nile, and Kenneth Branagh like fucking runs into him, which we learn later he's actually on a case that's secret. That actually kind of, it didn't save it, but I kept being like, what a hell of a coincidence. Mm-hmm. And then that reveal, it's like, oh, okay. He was there for a reason. He was seeking them out.
Yeah.
But yeah, you see the trailer. There's a lot of lead up. It's a lot of lead up though to the actual murder. And
that's pretty typical of older style whodunits, where it's like the first body doesn't drop until like
halfway point
almost. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same with Gosford Park.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's like an hour into the movie before the murder happens in Gosford Park.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all.
No, neither do I. It's just a different style. So it was kind of cool to see like an old fashioned sort of murder mystery structure. And they're typically done a little bit differently now.
I would argue it's the superior style, because the problem with someone gets murdered in the first act, like, first of all, that reflects like the impatience of a producer, being like, no, we need the murder to happen immediately. Mm-hmm. And also, by having it later, that's when, like, the stuff before, that's when the clues happen.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah.
And so, like, if you have to cram all that in the first act, it becomes very obvious. Or you have to have a lot of flashbacks and shit.
Yeah.
And then like the movie has to like point at things very specifically.
Yeah.
By doing that, by just having like an hour to like live with the characters, you get a lot of input. You know?
And it makes the red herrings more effective. Because if it's just like a character that gets introduced very quickly, it's like, well, they could probably be a suspect, but you're like, just by virtue of the fact of how much screen time they've had, you'll be like, well, no, they're not. They're not really the murderer,
right? But
the fact that we get a whole hour with all of these jabronis before Gal Gadot gets shot right in the face,
right?
I think I tend to agree. I think it's a better experience watching it anyway. It's a little bit more fun.
But what's leading up is that the ex/bestie that she betrayed has been haunting their honeymoon, which I thought was a funny thing to do.
Yeah.
Like
just following them around.
Yeah, so she doesn't talk, she just
sits and stares at how she explains it to Poirot is that she just goes to wherever they are and just sits and stares at them.
And it's like, yeah, she's pissed. And so they go on this boat to avoid her. Now, I thought it was like a boat that she rented the whole thing, but the friend shows up on the boat and they're like, she bought a ticket. And it's like, yeah, why wouldn't she? Why did you think the boat was... Like, did you think she's afraid of water? Like, she's the Lord of the Rings? Like,
yeah, that was an interesting... There was a quick line he says that actually kind of gives it away a little bit, because he says she bought a ticket in advance. So it's like, well, how would she have known to go on the boat?
Right, and it is his idea.
Mm-hmm, and it's his idea, to go on the boat.
Yeah. What I had thought, though, at this point, because Gal Gadot is saying, like, she starts saying, like, I fear for my life. I don't trust anybody.
You're right. She's like, I don't want to be around any of these motherfuckers.
Yeah. And she's saying, like, when you have money, there's no one you can trust. And it felt like she was she wanted the inspector to be there. That's why I was like, oh, this is, you fake your death, right? You fake your death to get away from it all. So I kept thinking in terms of, like, oh, she's going to fake her death because she fears for her life, which I think would have been fun, a fun twist, but not what happens.
No, she very, very legitimately gets murdered.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. 100%
it's definitely
dead.
A murder. And I did realize that, like, I did get to a point where when she's sitting on the slab the whole time, and then they talk about like the burns on her flesh, I was like, oh, I don't think she could have faked that.
No, she's pretty dead at that point.
So anyway, the ex freaks out on the boat and shoots the groom in the leg.
Shoots old Armand right in his leg.
Yep. And then everybody goes to bed, more or less. And in the morning, they find Gal Gadot dead, and we have our murder mystery. And then it's a series of interviews.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty standard detective movie stuff, where it's less about, because it's only one location, so it's less about going around town to interview people and just like staying in one place and interviewing everybody.
Right.
But it's still
short.
Good.
The movie felt short, by the way. Was it short?
No, it's 2 hours.
Okay. That's almost short by today's standards.
Yeah.
And so then the maid, or the help of Gal Gadot, is found dead with her throat slashed.
Yeah, that's pretty gnarly, actually. They find her. It's Rose Leslie, who played Ygritte on Game of Thrones. They find her because Poirot's in the middle of getting yelled at by Letitia Wright, probably over something to do with the vaccines. And then they hear a noise, and they turn around, and it's Rose Leslie's body is caught in the water wheel, slapping up against the glass on the boat. That was pretty gnarly.
Yeah, that was gnarly.
Yeah.
And so the reveal is like, oh, she clearly saw something. The killer paid her off, and then the killer
paid her off with a fucking slash to the neck.
Mm-hmm. And then that leads to the detective's little buddy.
Yeah.
Who we learn is there's this whole subplot where he's trying to marry this woman, and Annette Bening is not having it, and is his mother. And so what we learn is that Annette Bening has all the money, so we learn that he stole this necklace so they can get by on their own. Mm-hmm. And then he stole. It was Gal Gadot's necklace. He did the creepity creep, the sneak shuffle into Gal Gadot's room, and saw that she was dead, but didn't tell anyone, so he could steal the necklace. And then he also saw Rose Leslie get her throat slashed. Right. Yeah, he's just everywhere. Yeah. He's everywhere he shouldn't be. He's crawling all over the ship like a spider. Yeah, he didn't make the best decisions because, like, he could. What makes him realize that he did this is he throws away his jacket because he saw it. But, like, I don't know. He could just pocket the necklace and go, "Hey, everybody, I saw what happened," and then just not mention the necklace. Yeah, like that feels like that would have been fine.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do that.
Yeah, I guess he figured they would. I don't know. I don't know what his plan was. He didn't think it through.
He did not think it through.
No.
He's a dum-dum. And then when they're interviewing him, he takes fucking forever to say who did it, to the point that he gets shot before he can do it.
Yep.
And
there's a lot of Poirot weeping in this movie.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to see a densely mustachioed Kenneth Branagh just weep every couple of scenes, Death on the Nile.
He's having a hard time.
He's having the worst trip, the worst vacation.
And just a lot of shitty melodrama that is...
Right.
I don't...
it's like when you get invited to a party or something and you don't really... You know like one person, but you don't really know anybody else.
Yes.
And like a whole bunch of drama is exploding around you. You're like, I don't care about any of this.
Right.
Like, that's basically Poirot in this movie.
Exactly. He's just like, Jesus fucking
like,
Christ.
Holy fucking shit, I'm just trying to read my book.
Yeah. The one person who invited him dies. But yeah, also the melodrama, it's very much like if you read old Sherlock Holmes, where you're like, the structure of this is really good, but there's a lot of dated, dumb stuff as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so, but elaborate on that.
Well, the idea of this guy with the necklace, for example, where it's like modern sensibilities, it just like, it's less what he did, like the way he went about it just feels like, oh, he was like embarrassed, or like he did, like not thinking anything through. I'm trying to think of a way to describe it.
Yeah, I'm not following you yet.
It's almost like these are written in a time where like we didn't have many mysteries, so there's not many twists either. But it's like, it's that idea of like a character hiding something out of like, what will people think shame.
Mm-hmm. Well, he'd also go to jail.
Yeah, I guess. But again, like you just pocket the necklace and you go, hey, I just saw the murder.
She's
and this
dead,
is who
man.
it is.
I don't know what's happening up there. She got shot.
But there's like that idea of like, he's like thinking 12 steps ahead of like, if I say anything, that he'll figure out this and this and this. And it's just like, I don't know. Again, it's not really a hit against it or anything like that. It's just like he's acting in a way that's like, you're acting in a really dumb way. That creates this plot to happen.
Yeah, I kind of see what you're saying. I don't think that's related to the time, though.
I think it's more about the idea of like early murder mysteries are just such, they're the foundation, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They're a lot more basic, I would say, but not in a bad way. I don't know. I'll have to think about it.
Yeah, I'm still not quite following. He does behave like a dumbass, but like it didn't strike me as like false, because he is what we know about his character is that he is kind of this flighty dude who's never taken much responsibility for anything, but now he's like he's really in love with this woman, and he wants to get married to her, and he saw an opportunity and took it, and now he feels guilty about it. And when you're guilty, or when you think you're about to get caught, you do kind of start thinking 10 steps ahead of what's happening.
Yeah,
because you're like, well, if I do this, and they're gonna think I did this, and like, oh shit, you know.
He might not be the best example of what I guess I'm thinking of the idea of when characters are withholding because of society, what society would think. Like there's a better example of there's two women who are lovers in this, and for reasons that are pretty clear, considering that it's a period piece, are not sharing that information.
Yeah.
And he has to call them out for it.
Right, because it gives Jennifer Saunders, who is in this movie, doing a great job.
Yep.
It gives her a motive.
Right.
As we learn that who they're telling everyone is her nursemaid is actually her lover. And the nursemaid lady used to be wealthy. Her family used to own this building that employed a lot of people, and like Gal Gadot's family fucking screwed them over, bought it up, threw everybody out on the street. And now that building is being sold or leased in London, and she's really bitter about it. So connecting them together on that level gave her a motive.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Where were we? So he gets shot. And that's when he's just like, all right, we're closing all the doors.
Yeah.
And I'm firing a gun in the air.
Yeah. He just has the crew lock them all in a room.
Yeah.
And
I love that. Yeah.
He's just had it at this point.
Yeah. The crew is just like, yes, absolutely, this is bullshit.
Yeah,
these rich honkies are getting on our nerves.
Motherfuckers. Before they get on the boat, Gal Gadot climbs up into this gigantic Cleopatra costume and just announces she like rich lady cosplays as Cleopatra. And
she's doing a great job of being insufferable.
Yeah, she's totally insufferable.
Yeah. It was one of those things where going into this, I didn't know who the victim was. But now, having seen the trailer, I didn't think it was Gal Gadot because she's all over the trailer.
The trailer actually does a good job of that. It makes it seem like, honestly, it makes it seem like Armie Hammer is the one who got killed.
Yes, but I also suspected that was because they just didn't want to advertise that he's in it.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, and who'd have thought? He's the murderer.
Yeah,
and so but once she was like in the Cleopatra thing and I realized like she's insufferable, it was like, oh, they're gonna murder the shit out of her.
Yeah, she almost gets bit by an asp like Cleopatra. Right. Like they hint at like she stole the role she stole from Jackie when they were kids was Cleopatra in a production of Antony and Cleopatra.
Right.
Like they hint that she's gonna get killed a lot.
Yeah, and so Jackie is just covered with fucking motive. But yeah, it sure seems like she is, because she takes a shot at Armie Hammer, they put her away in a room, and like it was a good way of like, they cross her off the list very quickly.
And dope her to the gills so she's asleep the whole night. So it's like, well, she couldn't have done it.
Yeah, and the movies does seem to be setting that idea up, because she says to him like, I'm gonna kill her, more or less. She like shows him a gun. Yeah. And says like, I'm going to solve this with a bullet.
She tells Perot before they get on the boat. She says, I am going to, not in literally, but it all but literally says, I am going to murder her, and shows him the gun.
Yeah.
It's like, come on.
So, yeah. So what they're doing is Agatha Christie is stealing from the classic film Scream.
Yeah.
Right? She stole it from Scream.
She did.
She went to the future and stole the plot to Scream, where you take the person who is obviously the murderer and you put him out front. And then you make the audience go, well, okay, well, it's not them. That would be too obvious.
Yeah.
And so...
Well, then also, like in Scream, they do something right away to eliminate them as a suspect.
Yes.
It's not just putting them out front from the beginning. It's like both of those things.
Yeah, which in retrospect makes it very obvious. But like you just figure like, it's not the woman who said, here's the gun, I'm going to kill her. And then that's the gun that actually kills her too, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
But the reveal is that when she shot at Armie Hammer, she used a blank. He staged getting shot. So once they dragged her away, he had a moment alone that he basically ran to Gal Gadot's room, picked up the gun, ran there. It's like fucking Clue. Yeah. Like he ran down the boat.
Sprint. Yeah.
Yeah. But everybody thinks he's shot, so you can't suspect him. Actually shoots her and then really shoots himself.
Yes.
So then so when the doctor comes back to look at the wound, it's an actual wound. Which is that's very clever and fun.
Yeah.
For a murder mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's silly, but that's the best murder mysteries in my head are the ones where you're like, man, most of the time that plan wouldn't have worked. Like most of the time, like that it's a diabolical plan in that it's ridiculously dumb and it's pure luck that they got away with it for as long as they did. I was about to say
they don't, but yeah.
Yeah. So he closes all the doors, and I thought that scene was going to be really long, but he's just immediately like, it's you two. More or less, like he describes it.
Yeah.
And then the problem kind of fixes itself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, the movie's about love and the different ways that emotion is interpreted and the different ways people act on it. And she told us up front, Jackie tells Poirot and then by extension us at the very beginning that she's like, I would rather die than be separated from him. And we're like, really? That guy?
Yeah.
That guy,
yeah.
Huh?
Really?
Okay.
That piece of shit.
That guy?
Have you read the news? All right.
So she shoots them.
Yeah.
She shoots both Army and herself.
Yeah, she does a classic MS.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if she asked him permission. It feels
doesn't look like she did.
Yeah,
really
it doesn't feel like he was into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she shoots through them both. And yeah, it's funny because she's like, you don't have any evidence of it. And he's like, well, the handkerchief that was thrown in that had the supposed blood on it would turn brown if it was real blood, and this turned pink. And I would have said to him, like, okay, does anybody actually know that for a fact? Like, that's not evidence. Like, that doesn't, that's just funny to me because that doesn't actually, like,
well, it would.
You can't go in front of the cops and then say that. But, like, he is, like, world famous inspector, so they'd probably be like, all right, man, whatever you say.
I mean, you could probably, I don't know if you could test it in 1937, but you'd definitely be able to test that handkerchief and see that was paint and not blood.
Yeah, but that still wouldn't connect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, well,
it would mean that Army Hammer, what it proves is that Army Hammer faked getting shot in the leg, and in order for him to fake that, she would have to be in on it as well.
Yeah, I feel like they could still, like, you could still, if you had good lawyers.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just, it's not enough to actually connect someone to the murder, but this is old-timey rules again, which makes me think there'd be a really cool movie with an inspector faking that stuff to frame someone. Like the reveal is the inspector is the person who did it, but everybody can just like, because like Kenneth Branagh could like kill anybody he wants.
Right. And everybody,
right?
Yeah, because they all just listen to him.
Yeah. And so he could just make stuff up about like how paint reacts to water.
Yeah.
Like, why would he even know that? Why would he even know that?
Because he reads books. I don't know, man.
Yeah. It's Sherlock Holmes rules.
I don't fucking
where
know,
this
Dave.
one dude speaks with authority and everybody goes, okay, let's make all our decisions based on this.
Oh, that guy seems to know what he's talking about.
Yeah. I just really like the idea of like an inspector like this years down the line, everybody realizing like, wait, I think they were just making everything up.
I don't think that guy's very good at his job.
Yeah. I think we have to let all these people out of jail. Shit. So yeah, she murder suicides and they get off the boat. And yeah, then last thing we see, because he's had the hots for the jazz singer lady the whole time. Mm-hmm. And last thing we see, and he keeps like really miffing it when he talks to her. He's like a 13-year-old boy. When he talks to her.
Yeah, he starts rambling about vegetables the first time, and then the second time he's about to like ask for them digits, and then he just chokes. You know, because it's his whole thing. It's his arc where he doesn't want to. Yeah. You know.
It's the Sherlock thing. It's the detective. It's the genius who can't function with people. Although I will say he's more charismatic than that.
Yeah.
I actually kind of, having seen him in the first one. I mean, whatever. It's probably in the book. But, like, I don't know if I needed that. I kind of wouldn't mind him just being a pussy magnet and just being like, yeah, I'm good at everything.
I don't know. I kind of like him being like this sweet old weirdo.
Yeah, I mean, a character needs flaws. I get it.
Yeah.
But it's such a, I guess, a cliche. Again, when this was made or written, it wasn't a cliche. And so the end is him at the jazz club, mustache shaved. Seeing her sing, presumably to get it on.
Yeah.
Or to ask her out. And so it's clear that he got over this death of his fiance and shaved the mustache and has moved on. And so he has an arc. He has a whole arc about love.
And a mustache.
And a mustache. It's really solid. It's a solid film.
It is. It is an extremely competent murder mystery that I quite enjoyed.
Yeah. It's just got that one monster in it.
Yeah.
Like that's why maybe part of why I liked Orient Express better is because they get rid of the monster.
They get rid of Johnny Depp really pretty quick.
Yeah.
I don't
get rid of the shitty dude.
It doesn't whatever. Yeah, it doesn't hurt this. It didn't hurt the movie for me personally. Just I guess because Armie Hammer, like straight off the gate, his character is like, I don't fucking trust that guy. Like he's playing. He's a real
Armie Hammer type.
He's playing a real Armie Hammer type. So.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where this was made before all that.
This was supposed to come
they
out.
Had to sit on it for years.
Yeah, if old listeners might not realize, but I think we've mentioned it a few times. This movie was originally supposed to come out in December of 2019.
Right.
So it's over 2 years. It got delayed pre-pandemic, and then the pandemic happened, which delayed it even more.
Yeah. So at the time they cast it, they shot it, and Kenneth is walking away like, nailed that. Nobody with controversial issues around them.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years pass, and it's like, oh, good. Multiple actors. Great.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, this was made a while ago.
Yeah.
That didn't really
three
matter.
years ago was when this was made.
Luckily, it takes place in the past, so there's
it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. I'm curious about like the new Top Gun and stuff with that shit.
Oh yeah.
If there's any lines where you're like, oof, but we'll see. Yeah, and this is just, I don't know. It's not an amazing film. It's just really
solid
fucking murder mystery.
Yeah.
You know me. I love them murder mysteries. So, there's always a baseline level enjoyment,
Yeah. As long as you're giving me a puzzle to solve, I'm going to be at least 60% entertained.
Right. That was, of course, the blue balls we got with Knives Out.
Yeah.
Which is like a good movie in a lot of ways. But when you sit down, you're like, time for a murder mystery. And then you don't get a murder mystery. Sometimes it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
This is just like, we're going to give you a by the book murder mystery.
And
who's the killer? It's one of these people.
And I was like, thank you.
Yeah. And it is, I think murder mysteries, there's an instinct in subverting it.
Yeah.
And I understand that.
Yeah.
But honestly, subverting murder mysteries feels like a crutch.
Yeah.
That makes the writer not have to write an actual murder mystery.
Right, because murder mysteries are hard to write. So I think rather than worrying about trying to subvert it, just try to write a clever solution.
Right.
Which is, it's hard. I mean, I say it like it's easy. That's really fucking hard to do. But like that's for this particular genre, I think that's where your energy is better directed than trying to find some neat way to subvert it. Because it's like, if you subvert it, I'm just going to be like, well, that really wasn't a murder mystery. I don't like that movie.
Right. It's funny though, because I don't know how the general public feels. Like, does everybody, like, maybe people need them to, like, maybe, I mean, this movie is probably doing a bad weekend because it's the Super Bowl, and like,
and a pandemic.
Yeah, and a pandemic. Yeah. Well, the pandemic, at least this time, worked in my favor because it was fucking nobody but a bunch of angry film nerds.
Who got up and walked out because they couldn't see.
They got up and walked out.
They couldn't see Kenneth Branagh's original vision of Death on the Nile, I guess.
Yeah, in 70 millimeter.
It's like, all right, man.
Yeah. Although this movie looks good. Although I will say, for obvious reasons, a lot of CGI.
Oh yeah.
So it's one of those where like this is a hard or a complex conversation that like I watched the visual effects reel for The Power of the Dog.
Uh-huh.
And you don't even realize it. You're like, whoa, that's all fake. They faked so much.
Yeah.
Where it's like that beautiful sunset, this beautiful scenery. Like movies just do that now.
Yeah.
But this one, it's like, it feels fake. Does that make sense? Where like there's these sweeping shots of Egypt in these like Fincher-esque, like going, I guess not Fincher-esque, but it's like shots that you'd only be able to achieve with like a drone or a hot air balloon in this CGI, like, Egypt that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And it just feels very fake.
Yeah.
But it's very pretty looking.
Yeah.
But I kept thinking like, well, it's pretty looking because you have complete control. Like it feels like the movie was shot on a green screen, like a Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes, it does.
Where
and
like
I think
they just had like a boat set on a green screen.
I think that is mostly true. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And that's weird to me. That never gets not weird because it's like, so you don't really have any locations, do you? Like Power of the Dog, they were shooting still outside on ranches and stuff, but we're all like, I don't know why I'm comparing the two. Just to say this movie is very pretty, but I couldn't get it out of my head that it's pretty because it's all fake.
Yeah. I mean, like what how do you get around that though? Like shooting on
You
a
don't
boat.
get around
It's
it.
the way they've done it for 100 years. Like they just the green screen, so to speak, technology was just a little bit different 100 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
there's no getting around it. It
Yeah.
also doesn't cheapen the movie in any way. It was just a thing in my head
Yeah.
while watching. I don't know. That doesn't really matter. It's a very well made, solid.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess my question is.
Mm-hmm.
No, I've already answered it in my head. Like murder mysteries, is there a cap on how good they can be?
I don't know.
Like I always love a murder mystery, but if you do a murder mystery well, like we're saying, you don't subvert anything, then you kind of just get what you're there for, right?
Yeah.
I guess it depends.
I
I think Gosford Park exceeds it in my head.
Gosford Park is really good. 7 is a classic. In that
that's
way.
that's not a whodunit, at least.
It's not a whodunit. That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
I don't know. It is hard to, because the formula is the genre. It is sort of hard to stand out. You're right. I think the ways you stand out are like, the reasons why Agatha Christie stories are still being adapted 100 years after she wrote them is that she finds clever puzzles in them.
Right.
And that's what makes them stand out.
You do what Knives Out did, which despite, not being a murder mystery really, I mean, it does have a reveal, but like that movie stood out to people because they just liked the charisma. That was a very successful film.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, that's what it, like just doing a straight up murder mystery. It's really just about execution at that point.
Yes.
Yeah. Because they're movies that tell you right away we're gonna have a twist. Like it's the murder mystery is a twist essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why they're hard to write too. Is like the best twist you mentioned, 7. That's a movie where you don't think there is a twist,
right?
And that's why the twist works. Most good twists are movies where they aren't hinting at a twist. Murder mysteries are tough because they say right away, we're going to give you a bunch of clues and hints, and you have to figure it out as you go. So people are like constantly paying, like it's the most audiences pay attention to exposition, I feel like.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here dog-earing each time. They're like, my paint is missing. I'm like, yep, it sure is. Where's my scarf gone? I don't know. Let's try to figure that one out.
Yeah, and I don't know
what
whose
happened
fault
to
this
your
is.
coat. Let's see.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know whose fault this is, but this movie, the one hit against it is that they don't try to hide that stuff. It just is on its own. You know what I mean? Like they don't hide those moments in other plot points.
I will say, okay, finish that thought. I got something to add to it.
Well, it's just that, you know what I mean? Where it's like, when you get exposition and you think you know why you have it, and then later you're like, oh shit, that's why it told me that. I thought it was this completely different reason. In this, it's very much like what we're saying. Characters just declare clues ahead of time, and those clues, nothing happens with it. Like her missing her paint doesn't tie into a plot in a way that you think like, oh, okay, so that's why, Like if she was like, I'm missing my paint, and like goes downstairs to get more paint and discovers a body, you might not ping it, right? Because you're like, oh, they wanted to give her a reason to go somewhere.
Yeah.
But by having a character just say, I'm missing my paint, and then they move on, it's like, well, that is clearly means something. And you haven't given me a reason for it to mean something, so it has to tie into the murder, etc.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
What I was going to say is, though, one thing this movie does do to sort of not really get around that, but I agree with what you said, but I will also add that as loudly as it calls out a couple of those clues, there are others that you don't notice that go by. Like Rose Leslie saying that, oh, she got mad at me for forgetting to bring her nail polish, and we learned that it was red nail polish, and that was, that's why Armie Hammer stole the paint, because he thought he was going to have this nail polish, blah blah blah. So there's other, the loud ones draw your, it's like a misdirect a little bit. So you notice these big ones because you're focused on the couple of times where they just straight up announce the clue. You miss a couple that go, you don't flag some others that go by.
And then there's the one where the killer shows them a gun and says, I'm going to use
I'm
this
going to
gun."
murder.
It would have been really funny if at the end he didn't deduce any clues.
Right,
was
he
like,
just
I
said
remember
that.
this time that you said you were going to shoot somebody.
I thought back
with
to the
that
time
gun.
where you showed me the gun and said, I am going to murder Gal Gadot.
Yeah.
Wow. He's pieced it together.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah. It's
But
the,
yeah, I
it's
mean-
the I'm going to become the Joker meme.
Yeah. That's really what it is. It's a hell of a red herring though to have a character just say, "I'm going to use this gun to do the murder," and then the reveal is, "Yep, that's
Sure
what
did.
happened," just by way of Army Hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know if you're listening to this and you were using this to decide whether or not to see the movie, you kind of don't need to see it now.
We
I
ruined it
guess.
for you, yeah. It's
Yeah,
it's still a well-made movie that has good character stuff with a lot of the cast, but like specifically with Poirot because like you mentioned, the movie is about him.
Right. I will say he's delightful in it.
He's great.
A lot of actors are delightful in it. This movie isn't. This is the type of movie where I'll watch it again when I've kind of forgotten a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's still, and this is the same with Orient Express. It's not, the ride isn't that fun, I don't think. So like part of the fun is the mystery.
Yeah, always.
And once you know, yeah, but there's certain murder mysteries where it's like, I'll watch it again and again because I just like the movie. This is less so, I'd say, because it's without the mystery. It's just not as charismatic as some of the others. It's still, everybody's very good in it. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I don't tend to rewatch whodunits a whole lot.
Yeah. Yeah, the ones that I do are ones that really stand out. And this is just a very fun whodunit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I hope they make more.
Yeah, make a whole franchise, an MCU of Poirot movies.
Yeah, because I don't know shit about Agatha Christie. Like, I don't know how most of those novels. I don't read. So like,
I've only read like a couple, and she's got dozens. So there's plenty of stories they could make into movies. And I hadn't read this or Orient Express, so I went into both of those not knowing what the solution was.
Right. So do more.
Fuck it, yeah, make all of them. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, this is why I like watching fucking Sherlock as well. Because it's like that he was just shitting those mysteries out.
Yeah.
For better or for worse, some of them are real farts. I read all of them, and yeah, some of them you're just like, the fuck.
Yeah,
all right.
Some of them are real pieces of shit.
Yeah, but I imagine it's the same with Agatha Christie. It's like
they can't all be home
when
runs,
when you're churning out the same genre over and over again, there's going to be some where it's like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to make a deadline.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I have nothing else to say.
Me too. Well, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, you can check out our Patreon.
Yeah, you can.
If you want to. Patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We have some exclusive podcasts on there for just $5 a month. You get access to Tom and Jeff Watch Batman and Fox Mulder is a Maniac. We also have 2 exclusive podcasts with the Small Beans, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and Spiel Boys. So those are all available for a little more, for $10 a month. You can watch movies. You get all the podcasts, and you get to watch movies with us every Friday night.
We watched 2 mysteries last week.
We sure did. I guess they're called mysteries.
Yeah. More like thrillers.
Thrillers. But it's fun.
You should
check it
out. It's a real gas. We also have a store. Head over to gamefullyunemployed.com where you can find a link to our Teespring store, where we have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs you can get on t-shirts, mugs, stickers, posters, all kinds of shit. So check that out.
Check it out. Yeah. And who knows? Maybe we'll murder you.
Maybe, yeah. It depends on how hard you were fuck dancing in a jazz club.
Yeah. That is how you
6
gauge
weeks prior.
murders.
Yeah. Are you planning a trip to Egypt? Perhaps
we'll
reconsider.
Yeah, that's our whole thing.
We'll be there. We'll be there eating dessert and staring at the pyramids.
Yep. It's our brand now.
Yeah.
We will murder you.
The fact that she showed him the gun.
Yeah.
And he comes back to Gal Gadot and he's like, there's nothing I can do.
Right. Yes, you fucking, there's something you can do. She showed you a gun and said, I am going to do a murder. And he's just like, I don't know, maybe you should get away.
Yeah,
you should go
his
home.
solution is you should go home. You should probably
It's
just go home.
She can murder them at home, too. Yeah, he's a good detective, but he's not very good at, like, preventing murders, is he?
No, he's the worst at preventing murders.
He really is. But then he's out of a job. Like, this is the thing. This is what it is that he sees a murder coming and he's like, I'm not going to say anything because then I won't get paid. You got to let the murder happen.
Yeah.
And then you're like, aha, I'm going to solve it.
Because that's how I collect my ducats.
Do you think at the end he like turned to someone and he was like, that'll be $20? Like like someone's paying him, right?
Yeah. Well, presumably Gal Gadot was paying him. Yeah.
Yeah. He turns to whoever inherited and he's like, hey, so awkward, but here's my bill for solving her murder. He's got a racket.
Yeah. He just hangs around these high drama sitches where he knows somebody's bound to get murdered.
Right. I really like the idea that he only asked for like $20 though. Like it's tips. Like everybody as they're getting off, he's just like,
yeah, he's like,
and they all have to like
he
tip
just
him.
did murder mystery theater.
Yeah, exactly.
For their cruise. He's like an ambulance chaser.
Yeah, exactly.
He just invites himself to these high society balls where bodies are likely to drop.
Right. He saw what was happening with the couple and the marriage and the jilted lover, and he was like, well, there's gonna be a murder.
That's gonna be a beefy payday for Hercule Poirot.
Yeah. Fucking racket.
Yeah, he's killing it.
Yeah.
Mustache wax is not cheap.
That's true.
It might be cheap. I don't know. It's not free. That's for sure.
It's not. It's definitely not free.
The upkeep of that glorious mustache is something you have to devote a lot of time and money to.
Oh yeah, he lists that mustache as a dependent on his taxes.
He has an insurance policy on that mustache.